Welcome to my channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe. It's too big for me, but I'll try. The alien woman's reproductive struggle. The air in the docking bay shimmered with heat as the transport engines wound down, and Marcus found himself squinting against the bluish glow of alien architecture. He wasn't sure if the tall, curved towers were built, or simply willed into being by some alien interior decorator with a fondness for seashells. Either way, he kept muttering, "Don't touch anything," as though the warning were for himself. The figures waiting for him stood in silence, their robes a strange combination of flowing fabric and metallic strands that clicked softly when they moved. At the center was Lyra. She looked almost human, more human than Marcus had expected, but her long ears gave her away. They swept back elegantly, catching the light like the wings of silver insects. When she stepped forward, her eyes locked on him with a mixture of curiosity and dread, as though she'd been asked to shake hands with a bomb. "So," Marcus said, breaking the silence with the grace of a brick, "you must be my date for the apocalypse." The alien elders exchanged looks that suggested deep disapproval, though Marcus had no translator handy to confirm it. Lyra tilted her head, her ears twitching ever so slightly. "You are the human," she said carefully, as though testing each word. "That's me," he answered. "Marcus. Certified human. 2 arms, 2 legs, a bad knee, and a tendency to talk too much when I'm nervous." He offered a hand, and after a long pause, she accepted it, her grip cool and hesitant. Her people had prepared her for this. She had been told he would be larger, rougher, biologically incompatible except under the most desperate of circumstances. She had not been told he would smile at her as though she were an equal, and certainly no one had warned her about his humor. The elders began a ritual chant, their voices weaving into the hum of the docking bay, a sound that reminded Marcus of a dozen malfunctioning air conditioners. Lyra translated under her breath, "They are blessing the union. They speak of fusion of bloodlines, the survival of my people, and, she hesitated, ears flicking. Also something about fertility cycles and lunar tides." Marcus nodded solemnly. "Ah, the usual small talk before dinner." Her lips twitched despite herself, a fragile smile slipping free. It startled her. She had never laughed in the presence of the elders, never allowed herself levity in matters of survival. But this man, this strange, clumsy man, was already bending the weight on her shoulders, if only a little. As they were led through long corridors of glowing crystal, Marcus whispered, "So, do you live in one of these shiny towers? Or do you guys have regular apartments with bad plumbing like the rest of the galaxy?" She looked at him blankly. "Plumbing. You know, pipes, water, the things that explode at 3 in the morning when you least expect it." Her ears twitched again. "Exploding water, no, we do not." "Lucky," Marcus muttered. "That's worth the price of admission right there." The chamber prepared for them was lavish in a way that screamed ceremony more than comfort. A low bed of woven bioluminescent fibers glowed faintly, throwing soft shadows on the walls. Intricate designs spiraled upward, pulsating with the rhythm of Lyra's heartbeat. Marcus realized belatedly that the walls were alive, somehow synced with her. "Does it always do that?" he asked. She glanced around. "It responds to my state." "Right. So the walls are going to know everything about us." "Perfect. No pressure." Her face flushed an unusual shade of violet, and she turned away, whispering something in her native tongue that Marcus suspected was not a blessing. He sat down carefully on the edge of the glowing bed. "Look, I know this is important. For your people, for the future, for the elders who look like they're ready to vaporize me if I sneeze wrong. But maybe we should talk first? Get to know each other." She frowned. "The survival of my kind depends on our—" "Yeah, I got the memo. But if we're going to make history here, maybe we should at least know each other's favorite color." Her ears tilted forward in confusion. "Color? Mine's green," he said. "It's the color of my grandma's curtains. Hideous curtains. Looked like swamp moss had an accident on the window. But it stuck." For the first time, she laughed outright. The sound startled both of them. The walls pulsed brighter, almost giddy, as if the chamber itself approved. Marcus grinned. "See, Survival's already off to a good start. We've got laughter. She studied him then, the man whose presence she had dreaded, and realized that perhaps fear was not the only thing waiting for her in this strange union. There might be hope hidden beneath his awkwardness, hidden even in his terrible jokes. Still, when the silence settled again, her hands trembled. She knew what was expected. She knew what would come. And yet, as Marcus stretched out beside her with a deliberately casual sigh and murmured, "Don't worry, I only bite if asked politely," she found herself caught between terror and something dangerously close to comfort. The walls glowed steadily, alive with the rhythm of two hearts, one human, one alien, beating uncertainly toward a future neither fully understood. Lyra sat stiffly at the edge of the glowing bed, her long ears angled back like sails catching a storm. Marcus noticed the way she gripped the sheets, knuckles pale, as if she thought the fabric might anchor her against the weight of destiny. He leaned back on his elbows, trying to look relaxed, though his stomach was turning. He decided the best cure for nerves was words, and he had plenty of those. "So," he began, his voice echoing a little in the chamber, "on a scale of 1 to catastrophic, how nervous are you right now?" She blinked at him, clearly unsure if she should answer. Then, in halting words, she said, "Somewhere between catastrophic and implosion." "Great," Marcus said, nodding. "That's about where I'm at too. Nothing like mutual implosion to bring people closer together." Her lips twitched, and he took it as a small victory. The glowing walls brightened with a shift in her mood, rippling in shades of soft violet and pale blue. "I have studied your physiology," she said suddenly, her voice low and clinical. "Your species is incompatible with mine in many ways. The elders believe the attempt could succeed, but it is untested. If it fails—" He cut her off with a raised hand. "Whoa, hold on. You studied my physiology. Like all of it." Her ears flushed pink at the tips. "Yes. Then you know more about me than my last doctor," Marcus said, "which is honestly kind of terrifying. Did you see the appendix thing? They keep saying humans don't need it, but I swear mine has a mind of its own." Her laugh came out as a startled hiccup, and she covered her mouth quickly, as though ashamed. Marcus pointed at her with a triumphant grin. "See, you can laugh. You're not just an alien prophecy machine." She tilted her head, studying him. "You are strange. Your humor is badly timed." "Story of my life," Marcus admitted. "But hey, if we're about to make interstellar history, might as well do it with some badly timed jokes." The silence that followed wasn't heavy this time. It was cautious, testing, like two people dipping their feet into unknown waters. The chamber responded to it, the walls humming softly, the bed warming beneath them as if encouraging progress. "They expect us to begin tonight," Lyra said. "The elders wait outside. They listen for signs." Marcus groaned. "Oh, good. So this is basically a galactic reality show. Do they at least have popcorn out there?" She looked at him blankly. "Popcorn. Food that makes noise while you eat it. The perfect snack for eavesdropping." Her ears twitched again, and he could tell she was holding back a smile. "Okay," Marcus said, sitting up straighter. "How about this? We don't think about them. We don't think about prophecies or survival or whatever creepy fertility charts they've probably made about us. We just think about you and me. Two people in a glowing room, trying not to embarrass themselves." Her voice softened. "You make it sound simple." "Everything sounds simple when you don't know what you're doing," Marcus said. "That's my motto." She stared at him, then exhaled slowly, as if letting go of some invisible rope she'd been clinging to. "What happens if? I cannot if it is too much." "Then we stop," he said without hesitation. "We figure something else out. I don't care what the elders say." Her eyes widened. "But my people. Your people want you alive, right? Last I checked, survival doesn't work if you break in half on day one." This time, her laugh came freely, a melodic sound that filled the chamber. The walls pulsed bright gold in response, and Marcus raised his eyebrows. "Wow, either your room really likes me, or it's planning to eat us." "It is alive," Lyra admitted, brushing her fingers along the wall. "It is bonded to me. It reflects my emotions." Neat, Marcus said. So if I annoy you enough, the walls might just strangle me. Good to know. She shook her head, her long ears flicking forward. You are unlike anyone I have ever met. Yeah, I get that a lot, he said, usually right before security escorts me out. She smiled at him then, a real smile, not one forced by duty or fear. The chamber glowed brighter, warmer. For the first time since he had stepped off the transport, Marcus felt like maybe this wasn't just some desperate science experiment. Maybe there was something real here, something beyond biology. Lyra leaned closer, her voice barely above a whisper. Perhaps we could begin slowly. Not as the elders demand, but as we choose. Marcus nodded. I like the sound of that. Slow, careful, preferably with minimal risk of spontaneous combustion. Her laughter rang again, and the walls shimmered like starlight. They sat side by side, two strangers bound by survival, finding humor in the impossible. Outside, the elders chanted and waited, but inside the chamber, something far more fragile and important was beginning to grow. The first attempt was not heroic. It was not graceful. It was, by all standards, a disaster with glowing walls as witnesses. Marcus had leaned in too quickly. Lyra had stiffened like a statue awaiting execution, and the chamber had interpreted their tension as danger. The walls flared crimson, the bed vibrated, and a panel in the ceiling hissed open, releasing a swarm of glittering nano-drones. Marcus flailed. Whoa! What is this? Sparkly death bees. Lyra shoved him flat against the bed to protect him, her voice sharp. Medical drones. They sense distress. You frightened them. I frightened them. Marcus sputtered. They're tiny robots with needles. I think they frightened me first. The drones circled like angry fireflies until Lyra spoke a series of sharp commands in her native tongue. Reluctantly, the machines retreated, folding back into the ceiling with an indignant buzz. The walls dimmed to a sheepish lavender. Marcus lay panting, staring up. Okay, new rule. If I'm about to kiss you, remind me not to trigger the killer Roomba squad. Her long ears twitched in a way he was beginning to recognize as amusement. You panic too easily. I call it survival instinct, Marcus said. Very advanced feature. Comes standard with all humans. Despite the chaos, a laugh slipped from her lips, and Marcus grinned. See, disaster plus comedy equals progress. We're practically experts now. The truth was, both of them were shaken. Lyra's hand still trembled when she pulled them back, and Marcus could feel his pulse hammering in his throat. But neither wanted to admit defeat, not when so much was at stake. They sat side by side again, this time with a cautious distance. Marcus rubbed his forehead. Look, I know this isn't exactly romantic. I mean, we've got spy walls, a live studio audience outside, and killer nanobees. But maybe the problem is we're rushing. You said this before, she admitted softly. Slowly. Gently. Exactly, Marcus said. We don't have to prove anything tonight. Let the elders stew for a while. They can chant themselves hoarse out there. Her eyes flicked toward the sealed door. They will be displeased. Good, Marcus muttered. Let them try it themselves if they think it's so easy. That earned him another startled laugh. The walls sparkled approvingly, and Marcus pointed at them. See, even your room's on my side. They decided to distract themselves. Lyra asked questions about Earth, about oceans and forests, and the way humans built cities that scraped the sky. Marcus told her about dogs, trying to describe wagging tails and floppy ears with hand gestures. She listened, fascinated, then asked why humans would keep small carnivores inside their homes. They're not carnivores, they're companions, Marcus corrected. Okay, fine, they are carnivores, but they mostly eat kibble. And socks. Definitely socks. She tilted her head. You allow dangerous beasts to consume your clothing? Pretty much, yeah. Her laughter spilled into the air again, and the chamber walls rippled gold. Marcus decided he liked making her laugh more than he liked breathing. In return, she spoke of her people's bond with their living structures, how the walls and towers grew symbiotically, tuned to their inhabitants. Our homes listen. They comfort. They protect. Sometimes they scold. Marcus eyed the glowing walls. Scold? What? Do they ground you for staying out too late? They emit unpleasant vibrations, she explained. Ah, he said. Alien timeout. Got it. The more they talked, the easier it became to forget the pressure beyond the chamber. The elders' chants faded into background noise, replaced by quiet laughter and shared stories. Eventually, silence fell, but it wasn't the crushing kind. Lyra shifted closer, her long ears brushing his shoulder. Her voice was tentative. Perhaps we try again. Slowly, Marcus swallowed hard, then forced a crooked smile. All right, but if the nanobees come back, you're on bug-swatting duty. This time, when he leaned in, it was cautious, careful. No sudden movements, no panic. Just two people testing the edges of trust. The walls glowed steady blue, the chamber holding its breath with them. The kiss was awkward, too quick, a little clumsy, but it was real. When they pulled back, Lyra's cheeks glowed faintly, and Marcus's grin stretched ear to ear. Well, he said, we didn't die. I'd call that a success. She studied him with wide eyes, her voice almost reverent. It is possible. Possible, Marcus echoed, his grin softening. Yeah, that's a good word for us. Outside, the elders continued to wait for a triumphant signal that had not yet come. Inside, however, progress was being made, not in the way anyone expected, but in the only way that mattered. Marcus woke to the faint hum of the chamber and the unmistakable sound of someone talking to the walls. Lyra stood with her palm pressed flat against the glowing surface, her voice soft but steady in her native tongue. The walls pulsed in rhythm, responding like a massive living heart. Are you having a conversation with your house again? Marcus asked, sitting up and rubbing his eyes. Because if it talks back, I want to turn. I've got some complaints about the mattress. It's way too judgmental. Her ears flicked toward him, and she gave him a look that was equal parts exasperation and amusement. The chamber listens, she explained. It learns. It is recording our progress. Marcus groaned. So basically, we're in a giant alien diary. Perfect. I hope it writes nice things about me. She ignored his joke, but her lips betrayed the smallest of smiles. The elders grow impatient. They expected more by now. Well, that makes two of us, Marcus muttered. But if they think progress is measured in speed, they've clearly never tried interspecies dating. She tilted her head. Dating? Yeah, Marcus said, stretching his arms. It's like a series of trials where humans test if they can stand each other for more than 3 hours without throwing cutlery. You know, romance. Her brow furrowed. Cutlery? He waved it off. Never mind. The point is, we're doing fine. Better than fine. We kissed, the ceiling didn't explode, and the nanobee stayed in bed. That's progress. Her long ears twitched with a shy memory of the kiss, and Marcus caught it. See, he teased. You're thinking about it too. Don't try to deny it. She looked away quickly, but the walls betrayed her by glowing soft gold. The rest of the day, or what passed for a day in a chamber with no sun, was spent in peculiar rituals of compromise. Lyra insisted on teaching Marcus breathing exercises designed to harmonize their energies, something her people swore was essential for successful union. He tried, but halfway through he began wheezing like an old accordion. Your diaphragm control is weak, she scolded gently. Hey, I'll have you know this diaphragm got me through 3 years of high school choir. Marcus shot back. Granted, I was in the back row pretending to mouth the words, but still. Her laughter rang out, and once again the walls lit up in delight. In return, Marcus introduced her to the concept of human games. He used scraps of cloth and a few metallic tokens from the chamber storage alcove to improvise a version of tic-tac-toe. Lyra studied the crude grid, then proceeded to beat him 6 times in a row. Okay, he said, frowning at the board. Either you're some kind of alien strategy genius, or I'm the worst player in galactic history. She shrugged elegantly. Perhaps both. By the time their laughter faded, the tension that had haunted the first 2 nights had loosened its grip. For the first time, they began to act less like prisoners of fate, and more like companions sharing stolen time. But the outside world didn't forget them. A low vibration shuddered through the chamber walls, and Lyra stiffened. She pressed her ear to the surface, listening. "What's happening?" Marcus asked. "The elders," she whispered. "They are debating. Some want to intervene." Marcus sighed. "Of course. Nothing says romance like a committee of glowing-robed supervisors breathing down our necks." She looked at him, torn. If they lose patience, they may override the chamber. They may demand more than we are ready to give. "Then we give them nothing," Marcus said firmly. "They can't force you. Not while I'm here." Her eyes widened at the certainty in his tone. "You would oppose them?" "Absolutely," Marcus said. "I've opposed worse. Okay, maybe not worse, but definitely taller. There was this guy in a bar once. Never mind. Point is, I'm on your side." For a long moment, she simply studied him, her ears angled forward, listening as though trying to catch the truth behind his words. Then she smiled faintly. "You are reckless." "Reckless is just another word for brave," Marcus said. "And sometimes stupid. But let's stick with brave." The walls pulsed with steady light, almost as if the chamber approved of their defiance. Later, when the elders attempted to project a series of ceremonial instructions into the room through glowing sigils in the air, Marcus deliberately stood in front of them, blocking Lyra's view. "Sorry, wrong address," he said loudly. "Try again next door." Lyra covered her mouth to smother her laughter, her shoulders shaking. When the sigils faded in frustrated silence, she whispered, "You are going to anger them." "Good," Marcus replied, grinning. "Maybe they'll finally realize they can't control everything." The chamber grew quiet again, warm and intimate, as though shielding them from the disapproving voices outside. For the first time, Lyra reached out and took his hand without trembling. "We will choose our own way," she said softly. Marcus squeezed her hand gently. "Exactly. Our way, not theirs." The walls glowed brighter, casting the chamber in a light that felt like promise. And for a fleeting moment, the weight of prophecy and survival lifted, leaving only two people, an alien woman with long ears and a human man with terrible jokes, learning to find a rhythm of their own in a galaxy that hadn't planned for them. The chamber did not sleep on the final night. The walls hummed like the low thrum of a starship engine, a pulse that seemed to match both of their hearts. Outside, the elders chanted longer and louder, their voices weaving with the sound of alien instruments that vibrated through the floor. It was clear they expected resolution. Marcus leaned back against the glowing surface, arms folded. "You know, for a bunch of supposedly wise leaders, they're really impatient. I'm starting to think they just want bragging rights at the Interstellar Council. Look at us. We invented cross-species romance before dessert." Lyra's long ears angled toward him, her expression caught between amusement and weariness. "They want survival. They are desperate." "Yeah, I get that," Marcus said, softer now. "But you're not just a survival machine. You're you. And you deserve to live this on your own terms." She studied him for a long moment, then shook her head slightly. "When I first saw you, I thought you were too much. Too loud. Too careless. Too big." Marcus smirked. "That's a lot of twos." "At least you didn't say too handsome, though I wouldn't argue." Her laughter broke through the tension, quick and genuine. But then she grew serious again. "Now I see that you are not careless. You are careful in your own way. You care too much." He blinked. "Is that a compliment?" "Yes," she said firmly. Something shifted in her then. The trembling that had haunted her since their first meeting seemed to fade, replaced by calm resolve. She crossed the chamber and sat close beside him. Her hand sought his, without hesitation this time. "We choose now. Not for them. For us." The walls pulsed gold, approving. Marcus squeezed her fingers. "All right. But just so you know, humans usually start with dinner and a movie before we rewrite biology." She tilted her head. "Movie. I'll explain later." The kiss they shared this time was not awkward, not hesitant. It was steady, certain. The chamber glowed brighter than ever, waves of color cascading across the walls, the floor vibrating with their joined heartbeat. The living room, quite literally, sang with their connection. Outside, the elders must have sensed the change, for their chanting reached a fever pitch. But inside, neither of them cared. What mattered was not prophecy or survival, but the simple truth that they had chosen each other freely. When at last they drew apart, Lyra rested her forehead against his, her breath unsteady but filled with something new. "It is done, not as they demanded, but as we wished." Marcus nodded, grinning. "And hey, no nanobees this time. That's a win." She laughed, and the walls echoed her joy like starlight. Later, when the chamber doors finally opened and the elders entered, their glowing eyes full of expectation, Marcus and Lyra stood together hand in hand. The elder spoke in grave tones, asking if the union was secured, if survival had been guaranteed. Lyra lifted her chin, ears tall and proud. "Yes," she said, "but not only survival. Something greater. We have chosen hope. We have chosen love." The elder shifted uneasily, and used to hearing defiance spoken with such calm strength. Marcus, unable to resist, added, "And we also chose not to be rushed. You try being in here with killer nanobees and see how romantic you feel." The chamber walls pulsed with a golden laugh on their behalf. There was no punishment, no exile. The elders, though disapproving, could not deny what they witnessed. The bond was real, and for the first time, the path forward for Lyra's people was no longer dictated solely by duty, but by something richer. As the crowd dispersed, Marcus leaned toward her. "So what happens now? Do we get medals? Maybe a parade? I'd settle for pie." She smiled. "Now we begin again. Together." And so they did. Their struggle had begun as obligation, tangled in fear and prophecy. But by the end, it had become a choice, one forged with laughter in the face of fear, with clumsy beginnings and stubborn courage. Marcus had arrived as a man dragged into someone else's survival plan. He left as a partner who understood the weight of another's world and carried it gladly. Lyra had begun as a trembling figure under the crushing gaze of her people. She walked away with her ears high, her laughter free, her heart no longer bound by fear but lifted by possibility. The chamber dimmed behind them, its walls storing the memory of their union like a living archive. Outside, the stars stretched endless and waiting, a reminder that survival was only the first step. Together, they stepped into that unknown, hand in hand, carrying not just the hope of a species, but the stubborn, undeniable promise of two hearts that had found each other against every odd in the galaxy. The end,